Hello, everybody. My name is Eric D. Johnson, also on BrightShine, right here in the city of Memphis, in the county, State of Tennessee. Today's date is Sunday morning, November the 12th, 2023. The time is 10:01 a.m. First, I'm going to say thank you to my family, my support for you, continue encourage, support, continue keep myself employed in Memphis, trying to stay and continue to further my education, more work college online, continue to pursue social research and be administrative, concentrate the market, spend time, take a break, and go to school. In the very near future, I'm going to go back to more work college online, continue to pursue my social research and be administrative, concentrate the market. Now, what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to start my Facebook Live. Hello, everybody. My name is Eric D. Johnson, also on BrightShine, right here in the city of Memphis, in the county, State of Tennessee. Today's date is Sunday morning, November the 12th, 2023. The time, 10:02 a.m. First, I'm going to say thank you to my family, my support for you. Continue to encourage, support, continue to keep myself employed in Memphis, Tri-State area, continue to further my education, more work college online, continue to pursue my social research and be administrative, contrary to mark. Present time, take a break and go to school. In the very near future, I'm going to go back to more work college online. Continue to pursue my social research and be administrative, contrary to mark. Now, what you see in front of you is anti-gang, anti-Gnostic, anti-hazing. Also, adversus heresies, translated meaning against heresies. Saint Irenaeus, the Bishop of Lyon, together with Saint Ignatius, the Bishop of Antioch, they wrote a 5-volume book refuting Gnosticism, proving that Gnosticism was a heresy. Also, St. Athanasius, the Bishop of Alexandria, in his 39th Festal letter, Easter letter, in the year 367 AD, banned all non-Christian writing. St. Athanasius, Bishop of Alexandria, together with all the other bishops in the Catholic Church, they went around and collected all that Gnostic theologian writing and destroyed it. A person took some of that Gnostic theologian writing, wrapped it in a papyrus paper, and put it in a jar and buried it and nagged them out of Egypt. In 1945, the little farm boys outside playing and didn't know what he had found. He took what he found to his father, who was a farmer. And eventually, the scholars in academia at the colleges and universities around the world, they found out about it. The sororities and the fraternities, the sohos and the frat bitches, they found out about it. And ever since then, they have been using and misusing the Nag Hammadi library to victimize themselves, being self-destructive and destructive, victimizing men, women, and children, trying to hurt dogs and cats, puppies and kittens. They've been going around trying to destroy wildlife, nature, and the environment, trying to destroy the North and South Pole. Now they're going out in space and trying to destroy out in space. Also, St. Epiphanius of Salome, the Bishop of Cyprus, wrote a 3-volume book titled Panarian Greek, Panarian Latin, translated meaning bread basket. The scholars at the colleges and universities around the world, they say that St. Epiphanius of Salome, 3-volume book, is also a versus heresies, against heresies. esoteric and exoteric. Esoteric and exoteric. Esoteric. And break it down to syllables. S-O-Ter-ic. Esoteric. And break it down to syllables. S-O-Ter-ic. Exoteric. And break it down to syllables. X-O-Ter-ic. Exoteric. And break it down to syllables. X-O-Ter-ic. Rejecting knowledge. See, this is what the PhD in the Theology and Religious Studies Department, and also in the Behavioral Science, Social Science Department. Rejecting knowledge. Western esotericism. Western mystery tradition. Hermetism. Gnosticism. Neoplatonism. Rosicrucianism. Freemasonry. Age of Enlightenment. Spiritualism, Kabbalah, exoteric, the occult, and then arcane, macrocosm, microcosm. Rejecting knowledge. This is what the PhD, the head of the Theology and Religious Studies Department at colleges and universities all over the world, rejecting knowledge. Western esotericism. Esotericism, Western mystery tradition, Hermetism, Gnosticism, Neoplatonism, Rosicrucianism, Freemasonry, Age of Enlightenment, Spiritualism, Kabbalah, exoteric, occult, and also arcane, macrocosm, microcosm. Rejecting knowledge. Rejecting knowledge. This is what the PhD in Religious Studies in the Department of Theology and Religious Studies. Rejecting knowledge. And also in Behavioral Science and Social Science. It's rejecting knowledge. The occult. Esoteric. Exoteric. Spiritualism. Theosophy. Anthroposophy. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. New Age. And then you have occult sciences, occult qualities, occulture. It's rejecting knowledge. Rejecting knowledge. This is what the PhD, the head of the Theology and Religious Studies Department, rejecting knowledge. The Behavioral Science, Social Sciences Department, it's rejecting knowledge. The occult. Esoteric, exoteric, spiritualism, theosophy, anthroposophy, Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, New Age. You have all this occult science, occult culture. A culture. It's rejecting knowledge. the almighty Vice Lord, Four Corner Hustler, the almighty Black Prince Stone, the almighty Black Disciples, Poppin', the almighty Mickey Cody, Crackin', the almighty Bluefin, Black Disciple, the Lord Stone Disciple, 7-Eleven, G Killer, the Gangster Disciple Killer, GD Killer, Glazed Donut Killer, See, reason why I did that, because see, there ain't no need of saying anything else. You know, it ain't no reason, you know, people for many, many years, there's been a lot of lying, just going around lying. See, again, things that I do, it really be about people lying. And what they try to do to me with all this lying. And then when you don't listen to these lies from the sorority and fraternity, then they try to go around try to get people to listen to the lies, some more lies that they tell them, you know. But like I said, you know, the Almighty Vice Lord Nation, you know what I'm saying? Just like the Catholic Church and Christian, you know, Judaism and whatever, all that stuff about Islam and all that, and religion and all that, it's still lies. Going around lying about Gnosticism and going around lying, talking about some Western mystery tradition, esotericism, all this stuff ain't nothing but lying. All you doing are Freemasons and all you doing lying and being violent. The Almighty Vice Lord Nation, affiliated, associated with the Almighty Vice Lord Nation. What you teach and how you teach, that's what's important. What you teach and how you teach. The dirty sheets and the wedding sheep did not do anything wrong. That's the reason why I keep talking about how this sorority and fraternity been going around lying. See, before 1945, the sorority and fraternities at these colleges and universities, also including at the historically black colleges and universities. When we talk about the white people, you know, we all know the history of discrimination. The white people, the Europeans at these colleges and universities, they gave their self-education. Thomas Jefferson and some of his friends started all this sorority, the fraternity, the flat hat club at William and Mary College. And when that ended, they started something else at William and Mary College, the first fraternity, Alpha Kappa Alpha. The first fraternity. It was all white people. White guys. White men. Because black people, Africans from sub-Saharan Africa, the Niger Congo, were slaves on the plantation. Denied education. And when it comes to the first fraternity, sorority, same thing. Started by white people. One of them, Syracuse University, then the other one, I have to refer to my notes. But you know, it was the same thing. The first sorority. So, you know, at the historical black college university, they call what the sorority and fraternity the Divine Nine. They go around lying. See, before 1945, discovery of the Nagama Library, all this esoteric, all this Western esotericism, Western mystery, this Freemasonry was being used by a lot of people. Then, the 1945 discovery of the Nagama Library, some leftover Gnostic theologian writing that didn't get destroyed. They should have been destroyed, but didn't get destroyed. So the sorority fraternity behind it, going around using the Nagama Library, talking about some Gnosticism, which is a lie. Plato, in his book, Timaeus or Timaeus, the demiurge was a good god who desired a world of good. The Gnostics took the demiurge and distorted it and turned it around, talking about the demiurge was a clumsy god, and talking about a material, talking about the material world's evil. They lying. It's been rejected. Gnosticism has been rejected by the PhD in the Theology and Religious Studies Department at college and university all around the world. It's rejected. That's the reason why. They be lying. All they do is lie and go around being violent. So like I said, that's the point. All this lying that the sorority and fraternities do. That's the reason why you got all these wars being fought all over the world, because the lying sorority and fraternity, they go around lying, taking information and distorting information. We live in a day and time where we have all this news and information, like social media and everything. We got print, newspapers, magazines, print. And then, of course, we got radio and television. But also, today things a little more advanced, a little more progress. The World Wide Web, the internet. And so, like I said, all this lying, it's a serious thing, because people are committing all kind of crimes because of the lies people tell. People make choices and decisions based on the lies that other people tell. Then they go around lying. See, that's the whole point. All this lying and the pain and suffering that lying causes, and the effects and effects of lying. It's very serious. Very serious. I'm quite certain, if we can go all the way back, I'm not Adam and Eve. I'm not going to go into too much further. I'm not going to even go any further. But a lot of times the things that I do is just people be lying, and I'm it's just lying. The sorority and the fraternity. The sorority and the fraternity trying to have influence based on lying. And like I said, it's serious. It's serious. The choices and decisions people make, people lying. We got a lot of things going on around the world, and it's serious. All this lying, but I mean, one of the biggest problems is the sorority and the fraternity, the sohos and the frat bitches. They the biggest, not saying, just because somebody in a sorority, like that mean that other people, but they are, as a group, a group of people, the sorority and the fraternity, they go around lying. Here in America, and then they go outside the United States of America, doing the same thing, lying. And then because of the lying, violence against innocent, they victimize men, women, and children. Dogs and cats being victimized. The Humane Society, here in America as well as the internet, outside the United States, the Humane Society, the dogs and cats are being victimized. And who you think is doing it? You don't see people intentionally putting dogs and cats in the Humane Society to be euthanized. They doing this intentionally to hurt the cats and the dogs, the puppies and the kittens. Dogs and cats are being victimized intentionally by people. Not just here in America, around the world. The dogs and cats are being victimized. The animals are being victimized. And then not just the Humane Society, but what the ASPCA. The dogs and the cats are being victimized. The puppies and the kittens, the animals are being victimized. Wildlife, nature, and the environment being destroyed because of the lies people tell. The North and South Pole being destroyed because of the lies people tell. The earth, the planet is in danger of being destroyed because of the lies people tell. It's serious. And then they're going out in space. The people that's telling the lies are going out in space. Being destructive. Are going out in space. It's serious. It ain't nothing that you can take lightly. It's serious. They are intentionally going around lying. I'm gonna tell you one of the biggest lies they've been telling is about religion. I think that's the biggest source of a lot of the problem is this whole thing about God. And people just lie. It's just all over the planet. Lie about God. That's one of the biggest lies that's being told by people all over this earth. It's about God. And people are being victimized by people who telling all these lies about God. Now, what time? Yeah. Now, what I just showed you is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Very important. When you have a discussion, I want to make sure we have a discussion in the law. United Nations recognize, including the United States of America, all the current events, just like we can talk about. Russia is a member of the United Nations, is a member of the Security Council. Ukraine is a member of the United Nations. So the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is very important because it affects a lot of people on this planet who are members of the United Nations, such as Israel. Israel, as I just showed, 1949 became a member of the United Nations. So there again, the Palestinian people have permanent status, observer status at the United Nations. The Palestinian flag is flying at the United Nations. They are not invisible. They are not invisible. The Palestinian people are recognized. They are acknowledged and recognized at the United Nations. So the United Nations, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is very important. It's serious. It ain't nothing to be played with. It ain't nothing that you overlook. Let me go to. Let's read the preamble to the Declaration, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the preamble. See, it affects people all over the world. All the people on the world. When you say that your nation, your country is a member of the United Nations, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is a very important document. So, the preamble to the Universal Declaration, the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights, the preamble. Whereas recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. Whereas disregard and contempt for human rights have resulted in barbarous acts which have outraged the conscience of mankind, and the advent of a world in which human beings shall enjoy freedom of speech and belief and freedom from fear and want has been proclaimed as the highest aspiration of the common people. Whereas it is essential, if man is not to be compelled to have recourse as a last resort to rebellion against tyranny and oppression, that human rights should be protected by the rule of law. Whereas it is essential to promote the development of friendly relations between nations. Whereas the peoples of the United Nations have in the Charter reaffirmed their faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person, and in the equal rights of men and women, and have determined to promote social progress and better standards of life in larger freedom. Whereas member states have pledged themselves to achieve in cooperation with the United Nations the promotion of universal respect for and observance of human rights and fundamental freedoms. Whereas members whereas a common understanding of these rights and freedoms is of the greatest importance for the full realization of this pledge. Now, therefore, the General Assembly proclaims this Universal Declaration of Human Rights as a common standard of achievement for all peoples and all nations, to the end that every individual and every organ of society, keeping this declaration constantly in mind, shall strive by teaching and education to promote respect for these rights and freedoms and by progressive measures, national and international, to secure their universal and effective recognition and observance both among the peoples of member states themselves and among the peoples of territories under their jurisdiction. Now, at the very beginning of this, you had a preamble. The number, Article number 1 is a very short but straight to the point. Article number 1 of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Article number 1. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. Article number 2. Get straight to the point. I'm talking about it ain't no vague. It's not any vague, vagueness about it. It's straight to the point and very clear. Article number 2. Everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration. Nobody's left out. Even if you're not a member of the United States, everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms in this declaration without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political, or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. Excuse me. Furthermore, no distinction shall be made on the basis of the political, jurisdictional, or international status of the country or territory to which a person belongs, whether it be independent, trust, non-self-governing, or under any other limitation or sovereignty. Even if you're not a member of the United Nations, still protected by the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. You protected. It just told you. It's important. Article number 3. Very important. Very short statement, but I guarantee, everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. Nobody's left out. Nobody. Every human being matters. All human beings are important. All human beings are included. In article number 4, I'm not gonna go on, but you see how this article, I'm talking about, they started from the beginning when it was drafted, and then when it became official. Like people say, it's official. It's official. This is what we live by. This is what people all of this earth, planet. This is what we live by. The United Nations. If you think it ain't, this is what your nation, this is what the United States live by. This is what the United States live by. Then Article 4 is about slavery. No one shall be held in slavery or servitude. Slavery and the slave trade shall be prohibited in all their forms. Very clear. Straight to the point. Very clear. Number 5. Article number 5. Very, very important. This is very important. No one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment. Let's just talk about the war in Israel. You just heard that, right? To degrading treatment or punishment. So they talk about the Israelis doing this and that. Talking about the Israelis mad at Hamas because of what so they gonna retaliate and get, and they mad, so they gonna blow up civilians. Israel is a member of the United Nations. Article number 5, it applies to the Palestinians. As on the other side, the Palestinians have permanent observer status. You don't, you know what I'm saying? You don't ignore the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Because you know why? Because the United Nations got United Nations peacekeepers, and then you got all these members of the United Nations. Not just Israel, who have a military. The United States is a member of the United Nations. And the U.S. military is on the scene. Aircraft carrier group in the Mediterranean Sea, as well as in the Persian Gulf and all that, in the Red Sea as well. The United States military in Syria, United States military in Iraq right now. And you're not going to ignore the United Nations Universal Declaration on Human Rights. You're not going to kill innocent men, women, and children who was at a music festival. You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. No one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhumane, degrading treatment or punishment. Who you think you supposed to be? Talking about you going to punish the Jews. Talking about some occupied territory. You're a damn lie. Because I just read it. You ain't going to do that. And you ain't going to say it. I just read it. Article number 6. They keep starting leaving this article. They don't leave nobody out. Nobody's left out. Article number 6. Everyone has the right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law. Nobody is left out. Read it again. Article number 6, the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Article number 6. Everyone has the right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law. Nobody's left out. excuse me, the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It applies to every human being on this earth, on this planet. Article number 7. All are equal before the law and are entitled without any discrimination to equal protection of the law. All are entitled to equal protection against any discrimination in violation of this declaration and against any incitement to such discrimination. And you know, I'm not gonna spend all my time, going one by one. But those when you start like that, it's important. And then it goes down just as important, addressing a lot of the issues that all human beings address in order for all nations to be able to resolve disputes peaceably, and to acknowledge and recognize all human beings as human beings, and not, being biased, being prejudiced, you understand, against any person. But it's important. It's important. But I just wanted to touch on that because there are a lot of current events. There are many wars being fought all over the earth in many places. There's a lot of displaced human beings because of war. And also a lot of human beings get displaced because of natural disasters. And that's just as serious. And so but when it comes to war, see, when you have a natural disaster, when people don't, when people don't die from a natural disaster, property get destroyed, your home, a tornado, a hurricane, typhoon, monsoon, a floods, had a bad earthquake. Earthquakes earthquake is serious. It's serious. Earthquakes are serious. It can happen. Wildfires cause a lot of damage and loss of life. And so, so when it comes to natural disasters, let's just say you don't die. Let's just say a person don't die. Your material losses can, you got your life. When you lose some materials, your car and your house, your clothes, your memorabilia like pictures and things like that, you didn't have time to pack it up and put it in a place to store it. All your pictures got destroyed, or something that you consider valuable, your high school graduation gown, your wedding dress, things like that things that you wanted, you wanted to remember, but it got lost in a fire. The wildfires came and you had to get out of there, man, but you got your life. And Lord knows, and I know when you have a pet, a family pet, sometimes, I know everybody don't live around the world in the same location, but I know a lot of people, live in places like here in America. We have natural disasters all the time. We have 4 seasons. This the fall season, but the weather in certain locations, it may not feel like fall. In some of the northern states, it gets colder because in the northern, but here in the southern states, sometimes the weather might not seem like fall. Might not even, when wintertime comes, it might not even feel like winter on some days. Might feel like it's a spring day. But in other states, like in some of the northwestern states, it's a blizzard outside. It can be December. It can be December in North Dakota and snow on the ground, 10 inches of snow. And on the same day in December, right here in Memphis, Tennessee, it can be December. It might be a little chilly, but it ain't no snow. It's sunshine. And then some other locations it be the same thing. But, when hurricane season comes, the East Coast get hit pretty hard. This is every year. Every year, hurricane season comes. The East Coast get hit. From the northeast to the southeast, the hurricanes come. Then in the Gulf, like the Gulf states, sometimes it be hurricanes and hit in the Gulf of Mexico. Texas get hit sometimes. Mississippi get hit. Alabama get hit. Louisiana get hit. So, natural disasters. Last year, when the wintertime, we had a bad snowstorm. Bad snowstorm. In the northeast, it was bad. Other parts of the country, but it was bad last year. Last year, we had a real bad winter. Ice storms. Knocked out power everywhere. It's a lot of people affected by ice storms. They lost the power. So that, things that we talking about, see, we talk about war, but see, natural disasters can be, people can get displaced by natural disaster, floods. You got to get out of there. You got to get out of there. You can't. Excuse me. When the natural, like here in America, when they give a advisory, the local as well as national news, they give you an advisory, say, look, you got to get out of there. It's a flood. You got to get out of there. That's what they mean. You got to get out of there. Because it's a flood. Simple as that. It's a flood. Now, if you sit yourself in there and you sit up there and stay, but they're going to tell you, they gave an advisory for people to get out of there. It's a flood. When the hurricane season comes and the water start rising high, they tell you to get out of there. Get out the area. They tell you that. If a tornado's being forecasted, saying that a tornado gonna hit, they're gonna give an advisory. Get out of there. It's a tornado. Now, if you're going to sit up in your house and they tell you it's a tornado coming and your whole house gets tore down and you get killed sitting up in the house, and they told you ahead of time that it's going to be a tornado. But see, people can be displaced because of a natural disaster. Natural disasters can, just like war, they can cause people to be displaced. Now, we live here in America. Think about it in other parts of the world. They're not as advanced. Some countries are still trying to develop, but they have natural disasters. And people can be displaced not just only by war, but by natural disasters. And so, it's a very serious thing to consider. But we should always, in this day and time, we should always think that it's a good idea to have the United Nations. Because I'm telling you this, man, the world would be in a bad state if it wasn't for the foresight that people in the past had with the League of Nations. And from the League of Nations, we have today the United Nations. But we should be thankful and we should be grateful of the foresight of people who had the vision to put in place the League of Nations. And from the League of Nations came the United Nations. We should be grateful and should be thankful. There's a lot of wars being fought, and then some wars have never really ended. North and South Korea have never ended the war. What they is a ceasefire. It really is a ceasefire. In the demilitarized zone, but it's a ceasefire. The war is not over. North and South Korea are really at war with each other. If you move the demilitarized zone, they'll go right back to fighting. That's one thing. The war never ended. The North and South Korea, the war in Korea never ended. It's a ceasefire. It's wars being fought all over the place. On the continent of Africa, it's wars being fought. The United Nations are needed all over the world. Needed all over the world. United Nations peacekeepers are needed all over the world. And when it comes to current events, we had to deal with matter of fact, let me look over here at a Russian newspaper. Now I'm looking at a Russian excuse me. I'm looking at a Russian newspaper, the TASS, Russian news agency. Now it's fall right now, but it's gonna be wintertime in that area, and it's gonna be wintertime. Now, let me just read this. See, here in the United States of America, as you know, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, supposed to be voting on whether or not to give funding to the Ukrainians fighting against Russia, as well as continue giving funding to the Israelis. And so, a lot of the military equipment is being destroyed in the war in Ukraine between Russia and the Ukrainians. A lot of the equipment, a lot of the military equipment, as well as personnel being, military personnel being destroyed, killed, and the equipment, military equipment, being destroyed by the Russians. Now, as of today, November 12th, I'm gonna read an article from the TASS Russian news agency. This today. Russian air defenses intercept 2 HIMARS rockets, destroy 42 Ukrainian UAVs in past day. According to the Russian Ministry of Defense, a total of 534 aircraft, 254 helicopters, 8,871 UAVs, 441 air defense systems, 13,358 tanks and other armored combat vehicles, 1,183 MLRS combat vehicles, 7,071 field artillery and mortars, as well as 15,207 have been destroyed since the beginning of the Northern Military District units of enemy special military vehicles. Moscow, November 12th. TASS, Russian Air Defense Forces intercepted 2 rockets of the U.S.-made HIMARS multiple launch rocket system and destroyed 42 Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles over the past day in a special military operation in Ukraine, Russian Defense Ministry reported on Sunday. Air defense capabilities intercepted 2 rockets of the HIMARS multiple launch rocket system. In addition, they shot down 42 unmanned aerial vehicles near the settlements of Oshane, Yogonoya, and Lima Pervy in the Kharkov region. Belogorovka in the Luhansk People's Republic, Pesky, and Andreyevka in the Donetsk People's Republic. Novoyodovka in the Zaporizhzhia region, and Peshanovka in the Kherson region, the ministry said in its statement. In all, the Russian armed forces have destroyed 534 Ukrainian warplanes, 254 helicopters, 8,871 unmanned aerial vehicles, 441 surface-to-air missile systems, 13,358 tanks and other armored combat vehicles, 1,183 multiple rocket launchers, 7,071 field artillery guns and mortars, and 15,207 special military motor vehicles since the start of the special military operation in Ukraine, the ministry reported. So, in overall, the Russians are destroying not only personnel, military personnel, but equipment. The Russians are destroying personnel and equipment in the military operation in Ukraine. And it's going to be wintertime. So like I said, there's a lot of things that the United Nations is addressing about war being fought all over the world. See, the war in Ukraine, see, this is what the sorority and the fraternity here in America, they go outside the United States of America and, you know, try to gain influence with people all over the world. And this is how the war started. It was the sorority and the fraternity. And now, the current events, we had this war being fought in the Palestinians and the Israelis. Excuse me. And it's not about taking sides. But, you know, see, it's important to talk about the United Nations when you deal with the Palestinian and the Israeli. You don't have to take sides. That's what I'm saying here. I'm not taking sides. There's no reason to take sides. There's no reason, you know, Right, okay. That's what we were talking about. The United Nations General Assembly and the United Nations overall. Now, the members of the Security Council vote in favor of permitting the observer for Palestine to participate in the council discussion on the current situation in the occupied Palestinian territory on October the 5th. That was in 1990. This is what the United Nations did. And then also, the General Assembly adopted a resolution granting to Palestine the status of non-member observer state in the United Nations. The vote was 138 for, 9 against, with 41 abstentions. Mahmoud Abbas, front center, president of the Palestinian Authority, with his delegation in the General Assembly Hall, following the Assembly's decision on November the 29th, 2012. This is what the United Nations has done. So when it comes to having this talk, always include the United Nations. See, this is what, when you say United Nations, this is all over. This is all people all over the world. When you talk about something like that, the Palestinian, you know, the land of Palestine, and when you talk about the Palestinian people, you talk about the Jewish state or the state of Israel. Should always include the United Nations in the discussion. And so in the current events, you know, behind the October 7th terrorist attack, the Israeli, you know, government responded militarily, responded militarily, and have been going after Hamas, not the Palestinian people, but going after Hamas, the people who were responsible for this terrorist attack on October the 7th of 2023. It was this Hamas. And apparently you had this Palestinian people, majority profess the Islamic faith, and you have like Sunni Muslim. If I ain't mistaken, the PLO was predominantly Sunni Muslim, but there's another Muslim group, the Shiite Muslims, and they have a group, you know, they have Hamas, and the Shiite Muslims are supported by the Iranians. And the Sunni Muslims are supported by the government in Saudi Arabia. So you have this rivalry between the Sunnis and the Shiites, not just in Palestine, but in a lot of places. In Syria, there's a civil war. That's what the civil war is. It's between the Shiites and the Sunnis. In Iraq, same thing. It's a rivalry between the Sunnis and the Shiites. In Lebanon, you have this Shiite group, Hezbollah, supported by Iran. So when you talk about the war in the Hamas-Israel war, it's a war that Iranians sponsored. Hezbollah today are shooting across the border between Lebanon, the border of Lebanon and Israel, and Hezbollah, the Shiite group that's supported by Iran, is shooting across the border. Now, when you shoot across the border into Israel, civilians are living in Israel, Jewish as well as Palestinians. Because Palestinians not just living in Gaza and the West Bank. It's Palestinians who live outside of Gaza. They live outside of the West Bank as well. They just live in Palestine in general. In Israel in general. They live. And so, when Hezbollah be firing across the border, this is really why the humanitarian pause, for the humanitarian corridor, a lot of people that were living in the north, not just in northern Gaza, but in the north of Israel, the Palestinians had to leave because they're fighting. Hamas and Hezbollah. But Hezbollah being a Shiite group in Lebanon, in southern Lebanon, shooting across the border into Israel. Then the Israelis firing back. But it's not just an air war, but it's a ground war. Now, the Israelis have not crossed the border, but they firing, it's like the Shiites, the Hezbollah is firing across the border, and the Israelis firing back. But it's a ground war being fought. And Hamas, their soldiers are shooting and getting into firefights with the Israeli Defense Force, ground forces. Now, the Israelis still have airstrikes, but now it's a ground war. And so, because the ground, humanitarian aid is being delivered, the trucks had delivered a lot of aid, and there's been a lot of news being reported about these hospitals and things of this nature. It's been misfires by Islamic Jihad as well as Hamas trying to fire rockets. And sometimes the rockets that they fire misfire. It's a ground war being fought now. The Israeli Defense Force, the ground forces, are getting into firefights with Hamas. As well as the Israeli Defense Force, the ground force are trying to destroy these tunnels. Now, the news media, the hospital, the Palestinian people now, it's been, the Israelis are being encouraged, to have a pause like a 4 hour or 1 hour pause, or the other day they had a 4 hour pause to allow for civilians to evacuate from the fighting. Hamas trying to hide amongst the Palestinian civilian population. This terrorist group, Hamas, they trying to hide from the Israeli Defense Force ground forces. And those that are not trying to hide, that are actually getting in the firefights, they being killed. They being killed. By the Israeli Defense Force. And so, the Israeli Defense Force are they're engaging the enemy. They're engaging the enemy, and the enemy being killed. Now, the hostages have not been released. The hostages should be released. It ain't no need of holding innocent men, women, and children against their will, man. Let the hostages go. Simple as that. Nobody got to beg nobody. Let the innocent men, women, and children go. Release the hostages. That's all. It's simple as that. Release the hostages. You don't have any right to hold any man, woman, or child against their will. You don't have that right. So let the hostages go. Simple as that. Let the hostages go. You don't have that right to hold any man, woman, or child against their will. You don't have that right. The Israeli Defense Force, the ground forces, they are being considerate of civilians. When the Israeli Defense Force give a pause for civilian populations to evacuate, the news media, as you see the news media reporting that the people were leaving. They were trying to evacuate the area. They were trying to get out of there. And so, like I said, I was just glancing at information in the United Nations. But it's a very serious issue. And this issue is not something that the United Nations is not aware of. They are fully aware of the Palestinian people as well as the Israeli people. And so, but like I said, the Israeli government, the Israeli Defense Force have paused in the war. And so Palestinian civilians can evacuate and get out of harm's way. It's being reported by the news media. The hospital. Now, Hamas got these tunnels underground. They got tunnels up under the hospital. You know, in all these underground tunnels. But every time the news media talk about a hospital, the Israeli Defense Force trying to find all these different tunnels and destroy these tunnels. And in the process of just trying to destroy these tunnels, they also, engage in the enemy, Hamas, soldiers. And firefights are breaking out, getting into firefights and, military operations. And, unfortunately, some of these locations where the fighting is going on, it's a hospital somewhere, and fighting is breaking out near and around the hospital. It's not the Israelis' fault. Shouldn't be blamed. The news media projecting this, venomous reporting against Israel like it's Israel's fault. Like they to blame. But they not. It's Hamas. It's Hamas' fault. They to blame. They to blame. It's their fault. Go find the leaders of Hamas and blame them. How they are intentionally oppressing the Palestinian people. Because that's really what they're doing. Oppressing the Palestinian people. And let's not forget about this Sunni Muslim and this Shiite Muslim. It's important to remember about this Sunni Muslim and this Shiite Muslim. Because the Palestinian Liberation Organization, that's who Mahmoud Abbas, President Mahmoud Abbas of Palestine, is the president. Hamas tried to overthrow the government. A violent overthrow. Violent overthrow of the government. Some of the government departments are run by Hamas. For example, the health ministry, as it's been reported in the news media, is run by Hamas. See, this is how you oppress your own people. And then you see all this reporting by the news media, the hospital. Somebody carrying a baby body. And then the news media projecting this image to the whole world. They're not projecting the image of the Hamas fighters and the crimes they committed against innocent men, women, and children in Israel, as well as in Palestine. The news media not projecting it. But when they show the hospital, they show somebody carrying a child or a body. They show all these people crowded into a hospital seeking shelter as well as seeking medical treatment. But they don't show Hamas and the crimes against humanity that Hamas are committing. The news media don't tell that. The news media, Fox they ain't telling that. CNN, they ain't tell that. ABC, CBS, NBC, they ain't tell that. But when they show the hospital, what they show? They show this crowd of people in the hospital. And now you're hearing all this stuff outside the hospital. You know, all this gunfire and explosions. Well, hell, Hamas is outside the hospital. It ain't just the Israeli Defense Force. You make it sound, the news media trying to project it like the Israeli Defense Force trying to kill innocent civilians outside the hospital. That's what Hamas tried to do. You ain't report that. Anytime the Israeli Defense Force get into a firefight with Hamas, that's who they getting into a fight with. Hamas. Tell that. The president of Israel doing the right thing. Because every time I see a hospital and I hear all that gunfighting, all them explosions, I know damn well who outside. It's Hamas. Because that's who the Israeli Defense Force getting into a firefight with. Hamas. The Prime Minister of Israel is doing the right thing. Every time I see a damn hospital being reported in the news media, and when I hear an explosion outside the hospital, when I hear all that machine gun fire outside the hospital, I know damn well that Hamas is outside that hospital with weapons. And they are using them weapons. Not just against the Israelis. They're using them weapons against Palestinian people. The Israeli government is right to defend themselves. They're right. Defend yourself. That's the right thing to do. Defend yourself. Because them a bunch of terrorists. Hamas is a terrorist organization, just like Hezbollah. And it's right for the Israelis to fire back at Hezbollah. Because they firing across the border, goddamn it, fire back. It's a terrorist organization. Doing the right thing. Fire back. In this day and time, ain't no need for no damn terrorist organization. Who you fighting? Who is Hezbollah fighting? You keep making these claims about Israel. Hell, Israel is a recognized member of the United Nations. You get all these, you just a bunch of criminals. Nobody's doing anything to them. Nobody's doing anything that hurt nobody in Lebanon. It's a large Christian population in Lebanon. Nobody's doing anything to the people in Lebanon. See, this what you do. You make up all these damn lies. And then you go around being violent. That's what happened in Yemen. The Sunnis and the Shiites get to fight. The Iranian government supporting one side in Yemen, and the Saudi Arabian government supporting the other side in Yemen. And recently, all these different places where the Iranians had their proxies, for example, in Syria, in Iraq, the Iranian-backed groups are trying to kill American servicemen and women in Syria and Iraq, as well as in the Red Sea and in the Mediterranean. They've been firing rockets. They've been firing rockets. They said some group called the Houthi or something. They've been firing rockets. Our government is right not to try to let this thing escalate. However, you know, when you try not to let this thing get out of hand, that's what ends up happening. It gets out of hand. Next thing you know, the United States is involved. But hey, you got to do what you got to do. If we got to get involved, then we just got to get involved. Because it's the same thing. We got to defend America. Simple, straight to the point. America. We got to defend America. We can't be attacked. No. We got to defend America. And so, when it comes to this Israeli-Hamas war, the Israelis are right to defend themselves. They got a right to defend themselves, and they right to defend themselves. Whenever the news media keep talking about the Israeli ground forces, they're not there to occupy no land. They there getting into a fight trying to find Hamas and kill them. They're not there to occupy no land and trying to shoot and kill no innocent civilians outside the hospital as well as inside the hospital. The Israeli government is right to defend themselves from this terrorist group, Hamas and Hezbollah, who are supported by Iran. You're right. And no matter what the news media say, defend yourself. Defend yourself. Israel, defend yourself. You're not doing anything wrong. No matter what Hamas try to do in the news propaganda, because some of them people that's in that Hamas organization, they not in Gaza. They not on the West Bank. They over in Saudi, on the Saudi Arabian Peninsula in Qatar. That's who behind all this marching, protesting out in the street and all. They behind it. See, this is part of their plan. They thought they're going to get all this public opinion, all this hysteria in the general public. Israel, defend yourself. Defend yourself. Hunt down, hunt and kill Hamas. Go up under the hospital. It's a tunnel up under the Al Shifa hospital. Go up under the hospital and destroy the tunnel. If you get into a gunfight outside the hospital, so be it. Whoever, when Hamas firing rockets and they have a misfire and the damn rocket laying out there in the parking lot of the hospital, defend yourself. If Hamas disguise themselves as a doctor, Israel, defend yourself. If Hamas driving the ambulance, Israel, defend yourself. If Hamas disguise themselves as a school teacher, Israel, defend yourself. If Hamas disguise themselves as a nurse, Israel, defend yourself. If Hamas try to hide when you open up a civilian corridor, you find Hamas in the crowd, Israel, defend yourself. Defend yourself. You ain't doing nothing wrong. Defend yourself. Hunt and kill the terrorists, Hamas. Hezbollah fire across the border, fire back. Defend yourself. You ain't doing nothing wrong. Defend yourself. Innocent men, women, and children live in Israel. And you fire, Hezbollah fire across the border, fire back. Shoot back across the border. Israel, defend yourself. And I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to say this before I end my video. Here in the United States of America, the sorority and the fraternity, the alumni, this stuff on the college campus, that's where it's coming from. That's where it comes from. The sorority and fraternity, the alumni. That's where it comes from. So don't pay no attention to that, because that's what I've been talking about all the time. The sorority and the fraternity, the Soho and the frat bitch. Some homosexuals and some lesbians, some bisexual, transgenders, transsexuals. That's what they are. That's what they are. Ain't no need, that. Hey, that ain't no attack on them. That's just what they are. Some damn homosexuals and lesbians in the sorority and fraternity, the Sohos and the frat bitches, some homosexuals and lesbians. So Israel, defend yourself. I'm going to end today's video. Again, my name is Eric D. Johnson, also known by BrightShine, right here in the city of Memphis. It's in the county of Shelbyville, in the state of Tennessee. Thank all my fans, my support for your continued care and support. I always put God first. My Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And what time is it? Well, the football game on, and then it's basketball season too. Go Memphis Grizzlies. Memphis Grizzlies. Go. Well, we done lost some, but hey, we're gonna bounce back. We're gonna still be competitive. Now look, it's football season. I'm finna go in here and watch football game. Hey, that's my fundamental freedom. Just being home. Hey, my fundamental freedom. You know, I ain't got to go outside and say nothing. Now. I can say whatever I want to say in my house. At my house, in my home, I can stay right here. I ain't got to go nowhere. Until next time, take care of yourself. Wish each and every one your very best. And we're going to try to identify these people that's out here marching and everything, you know. Because, they've been reporting all this anti-Semitism. Hey, it'll be a good idea to try to see who, especially, the white men and women, talking about some anti-Semitism and talking about protest and marching against Israel. Hey, if you see somebody, it'd be a good idea to identify somebody. Hey, until next time, take care of yourself, which is one of your very best. Time. Yeah. Let this thing